Minnesota BCA is hoping you can help them find a missing teenager. They're looking for 14-year-old Eliana Matson. Matson was last seen at her Roseville, Minnesota home on November 23rd around 9 p.m. The BCA believes she ran away sometime before November 24th around 4. They don't have any leads as to where she was heading, and she has not made any contact with family members. She's being treated for ADHD, depression, Asperger's syndrome, and PTSD. Aliana is 5'2", 154 pounds, and has shoulder-length curly black hair. Go to our Facebook page and share the story to get the word out about Matson. Protests and demonstrations surrounding the Dakota Access Pipeline continue over the weekend. The latest demonstration was one supporting law enforcement who are tasked with trying to keep some sort of peace during what's become at times a downright violent situation. Reporter Sharon Johnson has our story.
A wave of residents in blue swept the Liberty Memorial Bridge this morning,
because of them,
saying that they're standing in solidarity with law enforcement that have been involved with the pipeline protests.
they're put under such strain right now, and they have just, the time that they've put in, it's ridiculous.
Organizers say the rally isn't pro or anti-pipeline.
Pro-community. You know, we want our communities back. We want unity. We don't want division.
Wolf posted a status on Facebook calling for Bisman citizens to pray and march for law enforcement. This was the result.
We're just here to show our support for the law enforcement that are keeping us all safe from the activities that are going on due to the no DAPL.
Some residents say that federal and state agencies need to intervene with pipeline protests.
We need to see more support of not only our local but our federal government in all of this. I think that there needs to be more regulations imposed because while we all have the right to assemble and protest, you know, the key word here is peaceful, and things have certainly got out of hand.
Wolf says she hopes the rally unites the Bismarck-Mandan community.
I want to see smiles again. I want to see people beaming. I want to see people happy to be in this community.
It ignites communication within the county.
Today's protest comes right after the DAPL protesters found out they'll soon have to leave their large protest camp that's on U.S. Army Corps of Engineer land. They sent a letter to Standing Rock Sioux Tribal Chairman Dave Archambault on Friday saying if protesters remain on their property after December 5th, they'll more than likely be arrested for trespassing. The Corps says they made this decision to protect the public from violent confrontations between protesters and law enforcement, along with making sure people are safe from harsh winter weather. Chairman Archambault says his tribe is deeply disappointed by the decision and that the best way to protect people and reduce the risk of conflict is to deny the pipeline's easement for the Ojai crossing. He again called upon President Barack Obama to rescind all permits for the pipeline. Senator Heidi Heitkamp praised the Army Corps of Engineers' decision, saying, in part, safety must remain the top priority for everyone, and to help make that possible, it's critical protesters peacefully and lawfully move off the Corps land north of the Cannonball River into the identified federal and tribal lands. Senator John Hoeven echoed those same sentiments, saying, in light of violent protest activity, the Corps has taken a necessary step to protect public safety. Now the protesters should respect the law and peacefully leave the protest area. And Governor Dalrymple is calling on the federal government to take the lead on removing protesters, saying for more than 100 days now, the federal government has allowed protesters to illegally entrench themselves on Corps land, and it's federal government's responsibility to lead the camp's peaceful closure. A man was killed after being hit by a BNSF train earlier this morning. Moorhead police went out to the 1600 block of Main Avenue in Moorhead around 2:15, right behind J.C. Chumley's restaurant. Authorities say the man died at the scene and that he was stationary on the tracks before getting hit. Today, BNSF officials were out inspecting the tracks. BNSF says paying attention to what you're doing around train tracks is extremely important because most accidents involving a train are fatal. An era has ended in Cuba. Supporters began mourning Fidel Castro, their former president. For some, it's a time of sadness. The day after the death of the Cuban revolutionary leader, Castro's Cuba remains on the doorstep of the United States, and for 5 decades, it defied U.S. efforts to topple him. Fidel Castro died last night at the age of 90. There were candles lit in churches and flags were flying at half-staff. Cuba declared 9 days of mourning leading up to the burial ceremony on December 4th. But it's a very different situation in Miami's Little Havana, where people have been celebrating since learning about the dictator's death. Reporter Jamie Guerrero spent the morning at the popular Cuban cafe and has this report.
It was around midnight when the South Florida community first learned of Fidel Castro's death. As you would imagine, they were suspect at first because there have been many false alarms, but in this case, it turned out to be true, and this street, 8th Street in Little Havana, right next to Versailles Cafe, was crowded and packed, basically like a street party. The Cuban-American community out here celebrating the death of Fidel Castro at 90 years old. For them, this death is a vindication of the atrocities he committed during his oppressive regime. All night long, people have been coming out here sharing their stories about what it was like to live in that country during Castro's rule and his basically lack of human rights, and also basically undercutting everybody's due rights in that country. So here we are now. I want to meet somebody here that we met earlier today.
Yes.
This man here to your right,
Yes.
He was imprisoned for 9 years.
Correct, that's correct. He spent not in prison. There's prison here in the United States, which is a country club, compared to a prison in Cuba. Cuban prisons are real prisons. You know, he was tortured. He was bothered till the end of the day. You know, he said to the government at the end, and after 9 years, yes, I want to stay in jail, and that's how they let him free.
So what does this mean now for that Fidel Castro is dead?
You got to remember, he's the head of the snake. The head of the snake's gone. There's going to be changes, definitely, I believe so, and I have faith that the country as a whole will change for the better. What you see here, we want to see it in Cuba.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So again here, the Cuban-American community celebrating the death of Fidel Castro. Now, just to give you an idea of how monumental they believe this is, I spoke with one person who compared Fidel Castro's death to man walking on the moon. Back to you.
Well, Justin, it was a beautiful day out here, but is it going to last?
Well, it looks like it's going to last at least one more day. And good evening, everybody. Yeah, we were well above normal for this time of year. Here's a look at our high temperatures. Now, remember, our normal highs are into the upper 20s and lower 30s this time of year. Fargo at 45, Valley City, our high was 48, Jamestown at 50 degrees, and Devils Lake at 49. Making your way into portions of Lakes Country, into the lower to mid 30s and into Northland, Minnesota. Highs today into the lower 40s, still well above average for this time of year. We have that flow from the south, wind not bad out there, mainly between 5 and 15 miles per hour, and that compared with the plenty of sunshine that we saw. You can see on our satellite loop that we are seeing mainly clear skies out there, gave us the warm temperatures, and we're going to keep clear skies as we go through the evening. Now, with the sun gone, the temperatures are going to fall back into the 30s as we go through this evening, into the upper 20s during the overnight period. We got one more day of really warm air, and then we're tracking that system moving through that could be a really big snowmaker for western North Dakota. Looks like we're just going to get some rain out of it. We'll tell you all about that coming up later in the newscast.
Thanks so much, Justin.
Yep.
Today is Small Business Saturday, a day to celebrate and support small businesses and all they do for our community. Downtown Fargo was filled with people going door to door and shopping at local stores. Valley News team Giovanna Simic tells us how small businesses in our area support each other as well as the growing economy.
People hit the streets of downtown Fargo on Small Business Saturday to do a little shopping and support local stores.
Being surrounded by other small businesses that are independent and like-minded is just enormous, I think, and it really pulls community together. People refer each other to each other's businesses.
Josie Dans, whose family owns Zambros, says when the store opened 25 years ago, they were the only local store downtown.
It's really exciting for us to have such fun neighbors and to have such a vibrant downtown, because when we first opened, downtown was a much different environment.
She says people in Fargo-Moorhead, as well as other small businesses, really support each other.
It helps so much to be able to send our customers over to them and vice versa. It's nice to have that community aspect.
When you shop small at Unglued, you're not just supporting us as a small business, but you're supporting over 300 other small businesses.
But it's not just small businesses who benefit from this big day.
That is what makes our community thrive. We employ a lot of local people. Our money goes back into the community,
making the Fargo area even better.
Small businesses are what make a community unique. They put money back into the community. And really, if you think about it, like, the businesses in downtown Fargo are what make Fargo what it is.
In Fargo, Giovanna Simic, Valley News Live.
This Tuesday, a lot of downtown businesses are participating in Giving Tuesday, where a portion of the proceeds go to different nonprofits in the FM area. Later on Valley News Live at 6, we remember Florence Henderson, who played one of the nation's most beloved TV moms. But first, Justin's going to tell us what the weather is looking like for this weekend. Stay with us.